how when I came out of high school, they did a horrible job of really introducing us to HBCUs.
Really?
Yeah, I'm from Shreveport, so the only ones I really knew about were Grambling and Southern.
Okay.
I didn't even know about the other ones even in my own state.
Dang.
The Dillards and
Did you
the
have
Xaviers.
guidance counselors?
They didn't do a good job.
Shout out to amazing guidance counselors. I've had amazing guidance counselors in the public charter system in DC, as well as in my high school was public. It was considered a magnet school, but it was public. And the guidance team is, since middle school, we've been going on college tours. We've been thinking through, okay, what is the pathway? What are the steps, even in your 8th grade year? What type of math and what type of aptitude? And just making best use of the curriculum. Again, these things are not going to be perfect, but there's a lot that can be done to paint a picture of, say, hey, what is Omri good at? What does he really like doing? And what programs that we know of now support a good pathway into that, and then what are the outcomes? And I think that's where the guidance counselors come into play heavily, and they have the opportunity to create relationships with universities to create legit, like we talk about pipelines, corporate now, like, okay, from the university to the corporation, but it really should go all the way back to, early education guidance to say, Tyree is making puzzles. How can we get Tyree into a math and science STEM middle school? Yeah. What middle schools have a relationship, what high schools are going to, pipeline him into positivity as opposed to the other way? Because we know we got the pipelines that's negative.
Yeah, but I think that also you're bringing up good points, but then now if you take a step back and think about what state I come from, and like we like last in education and probably got so many people.
Slavery.
So it's one of the things. My state is meant to stay down. It's only meant to get people drunk, fat.
I don't like that.
None of us that's from there like that, but the people that's in charge, that's kind of how it is.
Yeah, and that's not like any other city now that I'm thinking about it, but a lot of times what I've observed is those of us who are educated and who have that context tend not to stay in those spaces. And I think, to be real, the only way that you actually create that change is to stay in those spaces, because then you hopefully get those tax dollars flowing in, get some salary, get some things going, and then you can have impact on stuff like that. Okay, now you're raising your kids, you own property in this space, and it's like, well, I don't want that curriculum wise, and it's I'm gonna sound like a real DC person, but like, you got to be in the PTA, you got to be in the school board meeting, you have to be on the council meetings, you have to be in your community saying no. So
but this is one of those things that goes back to, I always tell people, like, we always know all this stuff always go back to money. Mm-hmm. So like, coming from, like, Louisiana is the only state in the country that we don't have counties, we have parishes. Mm-hmm. So mostly in our parish, it's mostly consisted of Shreveport. Now, if you start looking at the demographics now, from when I was in school in the 90s to now, it's totally different. Mm-hmm. Most of these parents are younger. Most of them might be working 1 or 2 jobs. Mm-hmm. Income level is low. These kids don't know basic things, but the parents can't be involved. One, because some of them don't care. 2 of them, some of them don't have the time. So it's a lot of those different things that's going down. And if I also go back to my point about high school, also the HBCUs, for whatever reason, weren't the people that would send me the mail to my house to come to their program.
That's real.
It was the LSUs, it was the Baylors, it was, I forgot whoever else. They were the ones that were like sending me the stuff, but I was still smart enough back then, like, yo, we don't got that much money. I ain't finna go spend all this money to go to LSU.
Like, mail marketing is expensive. I mean, like, the same, and it's like, okay, I'm critical of Howard, I'm critical of HBCUs, but the same constraints that face the community are the same constraints that face the institution at a different level of analysis. So it's like, we are all kind of like fighting the fight at different levels. Yeah. And I'm not saying that, there are not challenges to having this impact, but I think that's when our like inherent, like community centric, how community centric that I think our people can be, it suits us, because, okay, if, back in the days, like, if, a mom with young children had to work, she had like a trusted community member who could watch the kids. It was one person, it was probably 2 people that was always at the community church meeting, and they were the vested voice of that neighborhood when they said, oh, we want to build XYZ. It's always going to be that trusted community member that is having tea with you, that's having dinner in all of the households, and they can be there because that's their instrument. That's how they instrument themselves in a community to make the impact. So it's not just at an individual level.
Definitely, and this could be like a whole like podcast on its own.
For sure.
But like after I make this point, we'll get into some other part of the conversation. But now let's even take it another step further. When I was growing up, most of my family were all in the same city. Mm-hmm. So at the time, my city had manufacturing. They had a GM plant. Mm-hmm. They had all these different things. People were there. They're making good livings. Mm-hmm. And you could, even though I made the joke earlier about like, what's a babysitter and all the other stuff. Mm-hmm. I still had my family's big. Like my dad's side of the family, 23 brothers and sisters, same mom and daddy. Mm. A lot of cousins.
That's a lot of kids.
A lot of cousins.
Y'all have family reunions?
They had like one.
Oh my gosh, y'all need somebody to organize a family reunion at that point.
On my mom's side, we always had them on my granddad's side, my grandma's side. Like, so every 2 years we was going to different places. So it was fun meeting my cousins. But any given time, grandma was there, she could help out, or my aunts or something like that. But now, because the economies in people's home cities have gotten so bad, people are moving around. Like
displacement.
My little girls have really only met a handful of like their cousins, so they're not going to grow up the same way that I did.
Yeah, they do miss that. I mean, I grew up the same way. My mother and father's family, they're from the same neighborhood. Mm-hmm. My father's side migrated from Virginia, Southern Virginia. My mom's family, North Carolina. So this is like great. Moved to they're in the DC area, and they ended up in the same neighborhood. So I was raised with all of my cousins, and while this is my adopted family, but that's my blood. I've been with them since I was 6 months, so that's my family. So we grew up all in my granny's house. So we all went to the same elementary school. Mm-hmm. We all they had days where so and so picked up the kids and made sure that everybody got their food. Their after school snacks and did their homework, or we all went to Granny's house and we did things on the weekend together. It wasn't like, this is your kid, this is my kid. It's, hey, we're going to do this activity. Can Tiff go, or whatever, what have you. So I agree with you. I even miss that. Like, I miss my cousins. Every time I go to DC, I'm like, can we just all do something? Yeah. Like, but everyone, they have their own children.
That's
so I'm like, part. I'm the one still living my best life with no kids. And I'm like, every time I go back, there's a new little cousin. Like, I'm like, y'all are populating the earth.
Yeah, when I was younger, I used to wonder, ask my dad, why you don't go hang? Like, we got land, and so we would go down to the land and go do stuff like that. But then as he got older, he didn't hang out with them as much. And I didn't see him. And he was like, when you get your own family one day, you'll see. And so everybody, like you said, everybody's busy. So sometimes I'm back in the city, but this person's working, this person's dad. And we have had times where we're all together and we have really a lot of fun.
Right.
I was the only child for a long time, for 12 years. So
oh, wow.
My two closest cousins, they're a year older than me. They were like my brothers.
Yeah.
And we still talk a lot now, throughout the week about different stuff.
That's nice.
And all of us were also musicians at our home church.
Oh, that's
so we're
nice.
bonded. We play football and all the stuff together. So
it's a blessing. Family is a blessing.
Yeah, I agree.